Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, and 24 hours on from Celtic's final game of the Scottish Premiership season, we're finally going to talk about Trophy Day and Celtic's failure to win on Trophy Day. But that's not the story, is it? That's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about the greater good that comes out of yesterday's game. The fact that Celtic are 4 in a row champions, and the fact that James Forrest got his goal to make it 16 consecutive seasons he's scored in the Scottish Premiership. It might have been a poor result for Celtic. It might have been a terrible, terrible game of football. But we're champions again. And that's all that matters. If you haven't already, please make sure to hit like and subscribe, because we are now around 500 subscribers away from the big 50k. That's right, the season is coming to an end. We have one more week in the 2024-25 campaign, and we only need 500 more people to press that subscribe button, and we've hit 50k. So can we do it for this time next week? Well, I'll leave that in the hands of you lot. Please go down below and bash those buttons. We've got a few things to catch up on today. Finally, time for somewhat of a match reaction. So Celtic won, St Mirren won. It wasn't the perfect ending to Celtic's league season yesterday. We would have loved to have took all 3 points. There was a chance there to make the lead, the gap over Rangers, 19 points. Nonetheless, we dropped points. It's a draw on the final game of the season. But I think when you consider the circumstances of how the game finished up, I think if you offered Celtic fans the opportunity of a last-minute James Forrest goal to continue his streak, to sacrifice a couple of points, I think that the majority of people around Celtic Park yesterday would have took that. If there was some magical genie who would have summoned himself down Springfield Road yesterday afternoon and he offered that situation to Celtic supporters, I think, you know, a good 7 or 8 out of 10 fans would have took the point just to make sure Forrest got his goal. And there's sometimes just such a fairy tale feeling that surrounds this club. And in my lifetime, I've been lucky enough to see the fairy tales, like Tom Rogic scoring a last-minute winner at Hampden to win an invincible treble, to see moments like Tony Watt scoring against Barcelona on the 125th anniversary of the club to beat the best team in the world, to see moments like, I don't know, Anthony Ralston scoring a last-minute winner up in Dingwall to give Celtic the push they needed to win a title they never should have won. I've been lucky enough to see moments like that. And in other lifetimes, there's been, you know, Stevie Chalmers and Tommy Gemmell scoring goals at Lisbon, or in Lisbon, I should say, to win a European Cup. But sometimes this club just feels like it has so many fairy tale moments. And the anticipation that was around Celtic Park yesterday, to see if James Forrest could get that goal, for it to look as though it was slowly slipping away, to look as though it wasn't going to happen, for then him just to pop up in the 95th minute, 94th minute, whatever it was, and score his goal. I mean, that's unbelievable. That is crazy stuff, and I am just absolutely delighted for him. He's more than deserving of that sort of moment, and that alone is probably the only worthy point of conversation from yesterday's game. 16 straight seasons now for James Forrest to score in a Premiership game. Next season it could very well be his last, as he aims to make it 17. But what an achievement, what an accomplishment. And when you put that hand in hand with the fact he is now the club's most decorated player, I've been critical of James Forrest over points of his Celtic career, and I think the majority of Celtic fans have been critical about James Forrest over the course of his Celtic career. He's someone who has offered this, you know, undoubted great service, but he's someone who has struggled with the ups and downs of inconsistency, somebody who we know could be a lot better at times. But when you boil it all down to the main point here that I'm trying to make, is he deserves every bit of praise and credit that he gets for what he's given to this football club. Even in the games or seasons where he hasn't been as standout, that he hasn't been as good, you know, to serve this club as long as he has, while also taking the amount of criticism that he has at times, through mainstream media, through the supporters, whatever, he deserves so much love and praise. And this season's a real culmination of all that praise that he deserves. So I don't know how much longer he'll be Celtic's most decorated player, the rate that Callum McGregor's going at, if he still has another few years in him. But he deserves to enjoy it while he can now. Yesterday, that goal was, you know, don't let the statistic fool you. One goal this whole season does not represent the effort that Forrest has put in and the quality that he's given us, because he's had a fantastic season. When he's been asked to chip in, he has chipped in, and he might not have the goals to show for it this season, but he doesn't need them, because he's more than a man about stats. The character that he brings into this team, the overall effort that he puts into the performances on that park, that's what matters about James Forrest. Doesn't matter how many goals he gets. And I was absolutely... I mean, you heard that roar round Celtic Park when the ball hit the net, and I was really worried when they passed the ball to him at first, because we really needed a goal, and I thought that there was a shooting opportunity that we just passed up. But what do I know? They made the right decision. They passed the ball off. They got Forrest's goal, and Celtic Park certainly celebrated it. After the game, James Forrest did in fact meet up with Bobby Lennox. He was there yesterday attending the game, and presented James Forrest with his award for becoming Celtic's most decorated player. So it was a very touching moment to see James Forrest and Bobby Lennox, of course, kind of share that moment, and see Bobby pass on that torch to James Forrest, two absolute greats at this football club. And you love seeing moments like that, a real nod from our very star-filled history to the current day, and I'm sure that James Forrest will be there to pass it on in the future. So here is the league table and how the season finished up for Celtic. Champions with 92 points. A very good campaign for Celtic. Of course, annoying that we did drop points over those 9 occasions, but you can't be perfect every year. I think the thing that I'm most gutted about is, if you look back at the league table, the 112 goals scored, we were only 2 goals away from tying and 3 goals away from breaking Ange Postecoglou's goal record that he set in the 2022-23 campaign, when we scored 114. But you know, the thing that I want to circle all of this back to is, this has been a season in which we have suffered tremendous highs and a wee bit of lows. There was that run of form where people would bring up the whole, oh, we're not as entertaining, we're not as good, we don't play as attacking a football, Rodgers can be stale sometimes. We scored 112 goals this season. If that's stale, good God almighty, I don't want to see the first year that we go back to scoring 80 or 90 in a season. What a campaign. What a year it's been. We've still got the cup final, of course, at the weekend, but we certainly enjoyed ourselves at Celtic Park and beyond yesterday. I loved the post-match interviews yesterday on the park. Brendan Rodgers making it abundantly clear that this is how it feels to be Celtic. A real missed opportunity not to hear Simply the Best ringing round the stadium at Celtic Park. I don't know if that was maybe on the Liam McGrandle's playlist before his technical difficulties took over, but nonetheless, a missed trick. But Brendan Rodgers certainly soaked in the occasion. A very interesting moment of conversation for him came after the game in an interview where he was asked about banners, and he referenced that banner from Tynecastle a few years ago. You remember when he left, there was a banner from the Celtic fans in the away section at Tynecastle, which essentially said that he was never a Celt and he was a fraud for leaving the club in the manner that he did. But I think that Brendan Rodgers has done more than a good enough job of winning back the hearts of Celtic supporters, and he did mention that banner yesterday. So in reference to the banner that was rolled out at Tannadice after winning the league, Brendan Rodgers said that it was better than the one a few years ago, the banner that he had at Tynecastle when I left. It certainly warms the heart more than that. But listen, for every coach or manager, when you feel wanted or appreciated at a club, of course it gives you the motivation and commitment to do even more for the club. Celtic have a fanatical support base and they deliver an expectation on you. I know what the supporters want, and that gives me the drive to make them proud and to be the best that I can be. And it warms the heart when you get that kind of support. But I'm not Michael Jordan. I'm not a smoker, so no cigars for Brendan Rodgers. Sadly, I would have loved to have seen a non-AI image of Brendan Rodgers smoking on that Rangers pack, but nonetheless, he's Michael Jordan in my eyes. He is Celtic's Michael Jordan for me at this moment in time. You know how much of a Rodgers fanatical I am. I hope that next year isn't his last, but a lot of work to be done. It still feels like the start of something at Celtic with Brendan Rodgers, so I really hope that he commits more of his future to this club. So a great day overall yesterday. Celtic know what they have to do next week now. That's win the Scottish Cup, win the treble and finish off the season in style. Hopefully a lot better football played in the Hampden Park next week than what we saw yesterday afternoon. But yeah, I'm not complaining about anything. I think it would be a waste of breath, a waste of oxygen for me to sit here and complain about yesterday's game after winning 4 in a row. That's right. And I look forward to trying for 56 next year. As I said, very special journey I think we're about to embark on with Rodgers going into next season. We know we've got another crack at the whip with European football, building off what we've done this year. And yeah, generally just very excited. Very, very excited. So one of the things that we need to look out for tonight in regards to European football is what happens in the Croatian Premier League. Yes, there's a big game there tonight which has huge ramifications on Celtic in their bid for qualifying for the Champions League next year. Now, I know there's been plenty of video and plenty an article wrote about Celtic's European situation next year. A big shout out to Hamish over at Celtic AM, who covers the coefficient stuff magnificently. He could always do it better than I can. I get lost in the coefficient talk. But very simply tonight, Celtic have a game to watch, and fans will be intrigued to see what happens in Croatia because, and thanks to Everything Celtic here for putting it out quite simply for us, that the one to keep an eye out tonight is Hajduk Split against Rijeka in Croatia. That game tonight could very well determine the champions of Croatia. In fact, it will determine the champions in Croatia, which will determine if Celtic are seeded or unseeded in the Champions League qualifiers. So if Rijeka win tonight, they will clinch the title and Celtic will be seeded in the Champions League playoff round. So you want Rijeka to win tonight, lads. It would be huge because if they do win, it means that the best teams that we can face in the qualifiers are the likes of Slovan Bratislava, who we beat 5-1 this season, FCSB, who I believe Rangers beat this season, and Sturm Graz, who are not an amazing side by any stretch. But if Rijeka were to lose and they didn't win the league, Celtic would have the likes of Copenhagen, Red Star Belgrade and Bodo Glimt to worry about. A trip to the Arctic Circle? No, after last time, thanks very much. Don't fancy that. So it's a huge, huge game in Croatia tonight for Celtic. I would much rather face any of these three sides than the three down here. And of course, just for clarification, if Rijeka were to draw, Rijeka would win the league on head-to-head if both sides end tied on points. But we want Rijeka to win tonight. It's as simple as that. We want Rijeka to win that game. We want Celtic to have the easiest possible route into the Champions League next year for the financial implications, for the fact that we're still wanting to attract the best calibre of player, to give Brendan Rodgers all the motivation to stay at this football club. I know a lot of people always bring up the whole, would you not rather be in the Europa League so that we can have a chance of a run? We could make a dent in that competition. We're not at a point right now as a football club where I think that we can turn our nose up at Champions League. I think it would be very naive and silly to suggest that. Listen, if we are in the Europa League next year, fair enough, we'll deal with that when it comes. But the Champions League and the money that comes alongside it separates us from Rangers for another few years. And when I say separate, we're already so far apart. But I mean like different worlds. And I like being on those different worlds because it keeps them in their place. So, Celtic, big game to look out for tonight for us. Come on, Rijeka, we're all with you. Right, that does it for today's video. If you have enjoyed, please make sure to hit like and subscribe. We're back all week building towards that Scottish Cup final on Saturday. So, yeah, no going anywhere. Took a wee day off yesterday to drink it in and enjoy myself, but it's back to work and it's back to building into a summer which I'm sure will be very, very interesting. So, see you next time.